Aloha and welcome to the 2024 HLA conference. My name is Jen Dunkley and I'll be facilitating this session. We're honored to have Stacey Aldrich, who is the State Librarian of Hawaii, and Jarrid P. Keller, a Deputy Director with the Sacramento Public Library, present Artificial Intelligence and Our Identity. Our presenters' bios are available on the conference website. This recording will be available to all conference attendees. You will not be in the recording and you are also all muted. So please type your questions in the chat. And over to you, Stacey and Jarrid.
Thank you so much, Jen. We really appreciate your assistance today. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
It's so nice to see everybody. So for our presentation, we started thinking about how are we going to present on artificial intelligence and our identity. And the first thing we did was actually use artificial intelligence to create this PowerPoint. So I went to Gamma and we thought about our presentation and we put in what we were thinking about and what we wanted to have a conversation about, and put in the prompt. We want to create a presentation that discusses the impact of artificial intelligence on human identity, relationships, and work, and then discuss the challenges and opportunities. And we were amazed because it created this PowerPoint for us. So what we'd like to do is share with you what AI produced for us, but then we have some additional questions that we want to ask you about and ask what your thinking is right now, because a lot of this is still questions for us. We don't really know exactly how AI is going to affect our identity. So our first question to you, and if you can just use a thumbs up or thumbs down from us doing our presentation through creating most of it with the AI Gamma, is it lazy or Akamai to do? So you can type in your chat lazy or Akamai. We will not be offended. Feel free to type in lazy or Akamai. Again, there's so many things now where we're having this conversation. Do we use AI to do our work, and does that make us lazy? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Now it's common. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it's both.
Awesome.
Yes,
yes,
it is.
It is. Great. Thank you, Eden. So Jarrid's going to share with you the AI version, and then we're going to then add our thoughts at the end. And we really want this to be a conversation. So throughout, we're going to be asking you to chat with us and let us know what you think. So Jarrid, I'm going to throw it over to you, and just tell me when you want the next slide, and we'll just power through what AI thinks this presentation should be.
And I promise not to deliver this as if I am AI reading an audiobook. So there we go. So hello, everybody. Greetings from a very cold Sacramento, California. One day I do hope to be in person at an HLA. So fingers crossed that'll happen in the future. But let's talk a little bit about the rise of artificial intelligence, a double-edged sword. I think we can all agree with AI, there's been quite a few advancements. Now that AI can process information so quickly, we're able to analyze data, we're able to make predictions, and really kind of automate a lot of tasks more quickly than we could have ever imagined before. We've seen a lot of progress where this has been done in healthcare, in transportation. It really is limited, and we're even starting to see it in libraries as well. But with all these wonderful advancements, we do have some concerns, or I will say Gamma has some concerns, which, we generally agree with. So there are many ethical and societal concerns related to AI, specifically about biases of information, about accountability, and really protecting our human autonomy, and really what is it to be us in a world that is heavily saturated by AI. You could go to the next slide, please, Stacey. So how is AI reshaping human identity and self-perception? So first of all, augmented reality, that's really huge. So how many of us out there play Pokemon Go? perfect example of augmented reality. And it really is, AI is helping us enhance our perception of reality, probably to a higher level than ever before. But at the same time, we're starting to blur the lines between the physical and the digital worlds, something to be kind of mindful of. Next, in terms of identity formation, AI has the ability to analyze vast amounts of data about ourselves and others, and it's really helping us shape our identities in different ways. There's not only our personal identity, but a virtual identity, and who really are we now? And of course, there is the human AI relationships. This is where we, as AI is starting to progress, we're really developing new types of relationships, and it's starting to blur the lines. Something that we're seeing a lot's happening right now is many people are turning to AI for therapy. So you kind of have this weird kind of blurring of lines between physical and the virtual. Next slide, please. Now, I will say we did not fully agree with Gamma, and especially this slide here. And just in all transparency, we did make a couple alterations. So in terms of navigating the changing nature of human relationships in an AI era, personalized experiences. AI has the ability to tailor our personal experiences, right? And draw and give us that information that is important to us, while at the same time kind of keeping us away from information that we may not want to hear. And what's happening is we're creating a lot of niche communities that specifically reflect us and reflect the things that we like. So very interesting. Now, in terms of social connections, we did change this a little bit. Now, we know that in an AI world, relationships are becoming more catered to the individual. And there starts to become a tension where is the individual more comfortable with this AI relationship or these human connections? So it's really about trying to find a balance between this virtual world and humanity. And finally, relationships of education. What is education going to be in an AI environment? And what skills are we going to need to thrive? So this is actually some very interesting things that are occurring. Next slide, please. So next, looking at the impact of AI on the future of the work, opportunities, and challenges. So one thing that AI allows us to do is automate. And we have to look at things like the low-hanging fruit. And for us in libraries, I think we have to start asking ourselves, with automation and things that AI can do, is there really a future for reference in the library world? Please no one throw tomatoes at me, but definitely that's something I think that we have to consider. With that, also looking at job displacement. As there's more automation, it does lead to job displacement. And it also looks at what additional skills are needed to be able to adapt and survive in the future. So, for example, is cataloging still something we do? Is that just something we allow AI to do it? So definitely something to look at. And with this also comes new opportunities where libraries truly, we feel, have the ability to develop new skills in taming AI and actually helping create better tools so that the public can understand AI. Next slide, please.
And I think also tools to help people access our information better too.
Yes, thank you.
Oops, sorry.
Okay. All right. And of course, this is the thing that we all talk about, the ethical considerations in the development and deployment of AI. So definitely in terms of bias and fairness, right? We want to look at, is the information fair and unbiased? And we want to avoid discrimination and perpetuating social inequalities. This is huge. Also, privacy and data security. We want to protect our user data, but we also want to ensure that when we put personal confidential information in there, what's actually happening to it? Is it being mined? Is it being used for other things? As I talked about earlier, we've seen a trend where a lot of people are starting to use AI for therapy. So what happens if that information gets out? And in terms of transparency and explainability, it's making the AI systems transparent and understandable. And it's allowing for accountability. And it's also looking at who owns this data and what are they doing with it. Next slide, please. As we look for strategies for humans to harness the power of AI, I think there's a lot of things that we have to look at. And first one is upskilling. We have to acquire new skills, and we have to look about how we can be competitive and relevant in an evolving job market. Next, it's the whole thing with collaboration. As the old saying goes, the genie's out of the bottle. So at this point, we have to look at ways that we can successfully work alongside with AI and leverage the capabilities and work alongside for human control. Very much kind of like in a Star Trek model, which we'll talk about a little later. And finally, with innovation, with AI and all these different solutions that are being developed, there are infinite and new possibilities in how we can progress. Next slide, please, Stacey. And of course, I got to apologize. We're in a busy downtown area, and there's been no fire sirens until right now. So finally, if we look at embracing the AI revolution and call to action, of course, this is about collaborating. We have to work how to work together with AI to shape our future. When it comes to ethics, we have to look at how do we uphold those ethical principles. Education, in preparing for the future generations, also what does education look like and how do we work hand in hand with AI? And of course, the big thing, innovation. How do we harness AI to drive progress and address all the different challenges ahead of us? And that is Gamma's presentation about our identity in an AI.
Which really doesn't get to, but what is our human identity in an AI world? It really focused on what it could find about AI that it has been fed from the information world. And it feels like a commercial for AI and how to think about AI. But we have bigger questions than just like, oh, these are all the possible things. We have to upskill. There are opportunities, there are dangers, but what does it mean to us, like to you, to me? So we have a lot of questions, and you may too, and we want to hear what those questions are because we think they're very important. So one of the things we know is that we're not going in blind to AI. How many of you have seen a movie that has had some form of AI? It's Star Trek, Terminator, Blade Runner. These are just a few. Her, AI, even and Prometheus. All of these movies have shown us the good and the bad of what happens to people with AI. If you think about Her, if you haven't seen Her, it's a really fascinating movie where there's a very intelligent AI that basically becomes people's emotional connection. And you follow a character with his emotional connection. And then one day, everybody loses their AI connection. And so it's a long conversation around, what is the impact of these AI relationships as opposed to human relationships. So we have some of these things floating in the back of our minds, but questions like, who am I when data and information about me creates a perception of me? So if somebody can say, well, tell me about this person, and AI will go out and just grab whatever's out there, whatever it has access to, that's what it's going to grab. And that's going to be who you are. And is that really who you are? No. Who am I when my identity can be reproduced from my data? Is that me? So there are already people, and I know an information scientist who has taken a mentor of theirs and put all the writings and connections that he had with this person into an AI setting, and he can have conversations with, and when he takes walks, he has a conversation with this person from all of the remembering writings and interactions with this person. Is that really the person? And he said that it feels like the person because it was the kinds of things that you would hear from this person. So are we going to be reproducible in this way? Who are we then? When we think about the next question is, what do I do? What skills do I need that will define my expertise? So reference, and I see Andrew put in a little thing about, not kind of managing not having reference. But in a world where information is available and you can have very smart agents being able to pull information for you and even more intelligently, not just hand it to you, I think there are going to be things that we're questioning, like, what is my expertise? Like, what am I going to be an expert in? Asking the right question, putting the information out there. And it's not just libraries. Doctors are going through the same, almost every industry is going through who am I in the work world with AI and how it works. And then as Gamma put forth about education, and we added some more about that, is what is education in an AI world? Honestly, if I can just turn my app on in my classroom and it'll take all the notes, it'll record it, make notes, make outlines, and then make cards. What is education? What is learning? What is it that we need to learn to be? And what are those skills that we're going to have to learn through this new education system? And I know education is struggling right now, trying to figure out how to incorporate AI as a tool. But again, what does that mean? What does that mean? Yes, critical thinking skills, not just note taking. I totally agree. So the other thing is, what do I really create? Now, this is a big topic, and many of you have probably seen this, but am I a creator if I feed ideas into a machine and it creates a whole book for me? I've seen things on Instagram where they show you how to write a whole book using a chatbot and then sell them on Amazon. There are lots of really good examples where we have teachers who are teaching their kids how to write, and then they're using image generators to help create images for the stories that the students are telling, and then they do create books that way. But is it because it's faster? Is it better? But did we really create the idea? What's the creation? And then how are creations shared? So in this new world where everybody is not even just a content creator as we've been, but a creator who just planted a seed for an idea and then creates a whole series of books with just a seed, but the AI is writing maybe the story. How do those stories get shared? How does that information get shared? Imagine a world where books are not, we talk about ebooks. Ebooks just a generated paper, a copy online mostly. But what if you have a book that you can read, but then you can start to have a conversation with the character in the book and ask them questions and have dialogues with Sherlock Holmes and ask him for how he really made his decisions in that book or in that case. How did you make that case? Or that you become a character. AI is making it possible for us to have these bigger, broader visions of what storytelling can be and how we engage with each other and with our ideas. And then what is my work? So what is my contribution in the workplace? And what is the balance of AI and people? So when we think about our work, what is the work I'm going to be doing? I'm still going to be responsible for making something happen, but how I make it happen, maybe I can do it faster with AI. It's hard to say. And I think we're all looking at how can we use AI as it is now, but we even have to prepare, I think, even further out. So there's this evolution that's happening with AI. So what is right now is not going to be the same in 5 years. And are we thinking ahead and being prepared for that? So as an individual, how am I thinking about my work and how am I really looking at AI and how I use AI? And I always like to think about new technologies in the dream dread. I usually say destroy, but my colleagues have used deconstruct. But when we think about AI in these 3 areas, if we dream about AI, what if using library resources was integrated and customized for better discovery and access? That would be a good thing. we have so many resources that our patrons don't use because they have to travel from bucket to bucket to figure out where information is. What if all that information could be easily navigated and displayed through some very natural language to better use all of those digital databases and ebooks and streaming media? What would that look like? And that's something I think could be amazing for our patrons and something that we should be a part of creating. For the dread, what if I just created a new company called Google Ebscale Overdrive, merges all of its content and offers to communities for cheaper access to information than a library? So imagine companies merging and saying, we can give this to your community. We can give you all these resources for less than what it takes to run a library. That's a dread. And then deconstruct. So in this part's really looking at what's possible, and what if libraries become the experts in AIs and take apart and advocate for AI for those things that support the best in humanity? What if data dumps of information are managed by librarians for quality control? There are these opportunities that are out there, and we have to, I think, as a profession, think about our profession and think about where those opportunities are and start jumping on them now, which is really good because there's a lot of conversation, I think, happening about AI at this point. Lastly, I think for libraries, our greatest assets are our humanity and our ability to evolve. And the fact that we're even having these conversations about AI and trying to figure out what does it mean, and we're already finding ways to use it in libraries, I think is amazing. And so how do we keep finding that humanity, and how do we keep defining not only ourselves, but also defining the work that we do to support our communities to create those human connections, I think are vital for us. And so we have a few minutes and we're really curious. This is a part where we really want to hear what you're thinking about. And I'm going to go back to the dream, dread, and deconstruct slide. And we would love to hear, if you want to put it in chat or if you want to raise your hand, we can call on you to add to the dreams, the dreads, and the deconstructs, or any other things that you're thinking about as you think about AI and who you are and the work that you're doing. Let's see, Ellen Ray.
Hi.
Come on down. Hi, how are you?
Good. I was just wondering about what you folks think about the corporate model behind AI technologies and the corporations like OpenAI, and how they depend on user participation to train their models, and how that increases its intelligence and its ability to eventually do things better. Do you guys have concerns about that, or how can we think about that in a positive way so that participation is something that we trust?
Trust is huge. That is a great question. That is an absolutely great question. I think that I'm always a little leery of corporations because they're about the money, and they're all about the money for their stakeholders. And the scientists who create new things will tell you, and I've heard them say this, that they'll keep creating stuff even if there's danger to it, until somebody puts the guardrails up. I think there's a lot of good conversation happening, and you can see like Penguin, the publishing house, they have just put guardrails around their ebooks and their materials. So AI can't grab any of the content from their catalog of their authors. So I think you're asking a very good ethical question, which is how much stuff should just be available for scooping up, and how much stuff really does need to be curated. How do we do that in ethical ways? And I don't know that corporations always have that in mind. They're trying to build these, ginormous products that offer freedom, but we don't know the impacts, the ultimate impacts of them. So, Jarrid, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, to kind of dovetail ditto to what Stacey said, and I have a lot of concern too because part of it, I do have concerns with the data that they're mining and the information that they're scraping about us and what we do, because how often can we all relate to this? We have a conversation, the next in our Gmail, email box, they're saying, "Hey, you would like this." It just happens it was something that we were talking about, right? So I have concerns with the way that they're using the data, but I also look at it too in any stage of early adoption, which I'm going to say we're kind of at that right now, right? There's always a lot that we do give away in order to evolve the service or the product, right? And then, it's kind of like, as the old saying goes for those who had horses, sometimes, the horse has to get out of the fence a few times before you can figure out, how to fix it correctly. So, yes, I have concerns, but two, in its infancy, I think there's a little bit of give and take here. And then as the products start to mature more, the service matures more, then we'll kind of scope stuff back. So it's kind of, the being an early.
I think I agree. We're on that early stage, and I would like to build on what you're saying. I do think we have to think more broadly. I don't think we should underestimate this technology because the technology is going to get smarter about being able to think. So it's not quite there yet. It depends on which scientists you talk about. How long is it going to take for AI to think on its own? But when AI is not just responding, is not just like a giant Google that can talk and collate information, but can really think things through. My question becomes, who's controlling that AI to provide whatever bias is that information? So will that be controlled, or will AI really be its own thinking self? And that is a longer term question that I think is more looming for us as humans and what it means. I think that as we think about reference querying parts, it's not hard to query AI right now. We don't really need people. I mean, when I went to library school in the dark ages, we were still having to use, we were given, it cost like $10 a search. So you had to make sure you got your search strategy just perfect. We're moving away from that. So we have to think about where is the value of like those connections? How do we connect with people and information? Where is our connection to the human side of that versus just the technology side? I know, Andrew, you've had your hand up.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you're having the discussion. I think it's great to have librarians always looking at different technologies and trying to see what works. And I think, like, coming back to your original question about is it Akamai or lazy, I think if you just simply let it do it on its own, then that would be lazy, and it's kind of like shortcutting why do we have human presenters anyway. But I think if you do it critically and are asking these kinds of questions, what is the value of this, then it becomes an area of where we at librarians, we have like the Library Future Institutes, and it's important for everyone to try to think about what works and what doesn't work. And I think so pilot projects, but really explicit about what is it that we can do and what are the challenges. And I think the idea that that you propose in terms of us getting ahead and trying to be the people who are kind of guiding, sort of like deciding what are appropriate uses. I think it's really difficult to, our traditional approach through libraries has been, coming up with rubrics and assessment and, coming up with standards. And even the industry that's creating these things, they don't know. And so I think, if you're trying to put us in the idea of saying we're going to apply standards, we had like when the internet was a young thing, librarians helped and tried to go and say, look, your program needs to be operable on all of the different browsers. We came up with Z3950 and all sorts of other kinds of standards. We can keep trying to do that, but I don't know if we can try to be ahead of this train without being run over. I think that it's a matter of really being very careful on this and making sure that people who are decision makers are aware of the limitations. What is that what do we can see in so much, like, for example, in the elections, the result of people being in algorithm bubbles And so I think continuing to study these issues, to do the things with information literacy that really applies to this. But anyway, I think it's a really important dance that we have to be part of, but we have to dance carefully and not promise more that we can deliver. Thanks.
I think getting ahead is always difficult. I think what we have to do is be more vocal. In libraries, sometimes we're not vocal maybe about the things we should be vocal about, especially these technologies. I think there's lots of opportunities for us to have programs, to have other opportunities for the community to start having these conversations about AI. The reality is we've all been touched by AI for a long time. If you have an iPhone, Siri is a form of AI. If you have Alexa, oh, sorry, Siri, my phone just turned on. I was like, nope, sorry, never mind. If you have Alexa, same thing. If you use Google, Google's now, harvesting and using AI. It's around us all the time. Businesses are reading applications using AI now to determine whether or not you get interviewed. There's just so many different things that are happening out there, and maybe we need to start being a little more visible or about information. And we kind of wait for things to happen. Maybe the librarians need to be on the forefront of trying to get on conferences. I haven't thought about this, but we probably need to. Conferences, technology conferences where we are asking the human questions about how this can be used. And then also talking to our vendors. Honestly, I've talked to vendors for a couple of years and I said, how are you going to use AI to improve your product? And yet we still get, here's our search engine. We added an extra box to it and it's slightly smarter beneath it. I think we have to get smarter about talking with our vendors about what we want, because we get held hostage. We have to wait until they innovate before we can do things. And now we're at a point where it's like, no, we have all these tools out there where we could start innovating on our own with AI and not have to wait. So except for using people's content, but there's lots of good stuff. Wow, thank you so much. People are putting in different articles and things to read. I really appreciate this. This is great.
And dovetailing just off what Stacey said too, I really just want to say, we have the ability like no other to bring our communities together and really start having these community conversations about AI, right? And the role that we play. So I think libraries, as Andrew, you had said, it's a careful dance, but I also see it's a careful dance where we have the ability to put in a couple other groovy moves, right? And that is by having these community conversations and really we can, kind of define us being the subject matter experts on this stuff. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us at the same time.
And getting back to Ellen Ray, the content that's out there, anything that we own, we do control what we own. We don't control what else is out there. And so the question becomes, what are the AI bots that could be library bots for our information that could help create connections for people. I see Stacey K is talking about reference questions and the ability to discern, and how do you expand reference interview as an interactive process where a human is not logical. Yes, it's a great question. And I do believe we are living in a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yes. And any sequels.
Yeah. So
What
any other thoughts?
Any dreams or dreads or what ideas, other things do you guys have? What about dreams? I always like hearing those.
Well, it's not a dream, but I shared this in the chat, but just as a reminder that if you are dreaming along these lines, my colleague Rich Kazan is going to be offering a course next semester, which is, I wrote it in the chat, something like digital storytelling traditions and technology. And he's been interested in AI and a lot of other things, and looking at, again, with like Hawaiian stories. And, I think it might be interesting to try to see what comes up in that kind of dream space and playing around.
Mhm. Mhm. I think it's important to take time to talk about these things and to talk about, my sense and my experience has been, if you can talk about things and you can talk about the worries, it allows us to build strategies for how we move forward. So I don't see the end of libraries with AI. I see different libraries, because I truly believe that libraries are about human connections. We've always been about human connections and how people connect to ideas and stories and to each other. And I think that role continues, and we have to continue to be really good at that human side. And at the same time, we also have to be really good at understanding the technology side, because you remember when the internet came, like, oh, we won't need libraries anymore. Well, we still have libraries. Oh, all these bookstores with coffee shops, we're not going to need libraries anymore. Where are all the bookstores with coffee shops? Borders is gone. There is still a desire to have a place, and especially in a democracy, where everyone, no matter who you are, has access to the same resources as each other, the same information, the same ideas, and a place that you can dream and create. And I think that role continues. And I think as we look at all of these new technologies, we do have to be the ones asking the questions, the good questions, like they're coming in the chat, which I truly appreciate, and expanding on those connections that we're making in our communities. There is good conversation about AI at IFLA. I think they actually have a statement out about AI.
They do.
People don't want to sit in their homes and borrow ebooks. Yeah, I think people want to be with one another. And I know from our statistics in libraries just now, we're seeing a precipitous rise in the number of people coming back to our libraries, as opposed to like 2022, 2021, we weren't as open as much. But I think there is that human quality. Ellen Ray, what are your thoughts on how to defend our humanist values in the next political administration that is an amazing question. What do you think, Ellen Ray? I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because someone mentioned Elon and X, and so the information corporations and how, they're under the next political administration. I think there's a correlation between these two values and the interest between these information corporations and the president. So, I agree, like we definitely have to protect our humanist values as we enter in this new environment. But it's just kind of, I don't know, I just came out of the freedom, the first talk about library defending ourselves from the book bans and all that kind of stuff. And so just kind of thinking about AI now, because it is a product of information corporations, and then making these connections. And I agree with you, Stacey, all the way. Just wanted to have this conversation on the political climate.
Oh, it's a great question. And I know some of us have been in mourning or unresponsive for a while, looking at what's possible. I do think we are going to see more challenges, because it's the simple stuff that's what people think they can control. I think we just have to focus on our communities. If we can focus on our communities, and we can provide opportunities for our communities to have conversations like the one we're having right now, and to give people options to see how information is, collected, provided, and then how to be a good information consumer in a world that, well, we know X is going to become, a Trump platform, already is. I mean, he's already
Yep.
turning it into that. How do we help make sure that people are still educated about all of these information tools in an unbiased way? Like, here are the tools, here's what you have to look for. Because the other challenge that we face is we serve everybody. And so we have to create space for everybody, and that can be very difficult when you have some people who want to take away from others. And so I think we have to continue to focus on our communities and focus on creating these opportunities for people to feel like they're seen and they're heard, and that they understand all of the ramifications of what's happening in the information world. I'd love to hear from somebody else. What else? What are other people thinking about this? Yeah, there's a lot of people. I got off of, I was one of the original tweet people, and I had my account from 2007. And as soon as Elon took over, I was off. I'm out.
Yep.
I think it's a complicated world. I think when things become more complicated, people look for things to be more simple. So they try to simplify things. So that's where we have to be really careful in helping people feel like they can digest all of this. I really do think that's huge opportunities. The Hawaii State Public Library System a couple of years ago partnered with Civil Beat, and we did a whole series on information overload and the impact of social media on the news. And the first one on the information overload, there are 80 people who showed up. And I think we probably could have more if we had those kinds of conversations. So how can we focus on our communities and creating that space where people feel like they can safely learn and be connected to one another? I think that is part of it. So Andrew, I see your hand again.
So yeah, sorry to monopolize, but
No.
I just wanted to reiterate one of the things I wrote in the chat is that it's been a while, but former ALA President Nancy Kranich, I think, had a lot of work with different foundations to say how the library can be a space for the community. And I was happy that you mentioned the idea of Civil Beat. And which brings up one question is, there was a great interview with you, Stacey, talking about the positions that, and worrying about the legislature freezing the positions. I was just wondering if there was any news or if there's anything that we in the professional community can do to advocate to make sure that those positions aren't filled, and so that we can have reference librarians, so that we can have librarians who are going to be advocates in the community.
Yeah, so we have to first advocate. The governor is putting his budget together right now, and we have a rebuttal coming forth about those positions. I think, that the challenge for us is we don't use what's in our wheelhouse, which is we have a newsletter that goes out to 390,000 people with a 44% read rate. And we just did a survey of the public as we're working on our rebranding project, and we had 13,900 people respond to that survey, 13,500 people respond to that survey. And every single one of them was saying, the running themes were, we want more hours and we want more programs. That was the running theme. And if we lose positions, we're just barely keeping up. If you take more positions, we can't meet the needs of our communities. And that's the needs of our communities in the smallest of locations across the state. And if we believe in equity of access, then we need those positions. So I think I would wait to see what the budget is that I have to defend. And I would hope that if you would consider writing a letter when we are having our budget hearings, and even just talking to your legislature about the importance of, in a complex world, we need libraries where people can unwrap things and feel like they can be connected. And to do that, we have to have bodies, because we need bodies to keep the libraries open.
I hate to interrupt this great conversation, but
Thanks,
that
Andrew.
seems like
Thanks,
a good
Andrew.
place to wrap up. Mahalo, Stacey and Jarrid, and everybody for participating. The evaluation link for the session is available on the conference schedule. and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy
Thank
the
you, everyone.
conference.